Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
I am so glad you're joining us today. My name is Geoff.
I'm Helen.
And we're coming to you live from 1920 Wellick Road.
You got it.
It is. I remember something you said a couple of days ago.
Yes.
I think we recorded this, and we talk about perspective and how different perspective people have. And I said, when I got up in the morning, I said, holy mackerel, is it ever windy?
Yeah.
And you got up in the morning and said, oh, but look at the sunshine. And I thought, this is true today too. It is very windy out there. It's calmed down now, but the sun has been bright. It's been warm.
It was a warm day. It was beautiful.
I'm glad to be here in our studio.
Yes.
I'm glad to
We're
tackle.
excited,
yes, we're going to tackle a really good series that we're going to put a lot of work and effort into, and we're glad that you're along with us for the ride.
We are joining the challenge with you.
Yes, we're joining the challenge. We want to talk, we're going to get right into it here. We want to talk about 5 keys to overcoming whatever life throws at you. Now, I know that is a very broad statement, a very bold statement, but I really believe that in John chapter 10, verse 10, and we've used this before, John 10:10 says that the purpose of Jesus was to come that we would have life and have it more abundantly. Again, it's not life he's talking about where we just breathe and move from one day to the next, but he wants us to enjoy everything he has for us here and now. And part of that process is because we go through stuff and we're dealing with things, and there's always obstacles in our life, and I know from our own experience how obstacles can do one of two things. One, they can completely kibosh your life and set you down a rabbit trail that you have a hard time recovering, or those obstacles can be opportunities for us to rise above. And I believe with all my heart, and part of this series we're going through these 5 keys to overcoming whatever life throws at you, because there's a lot of things life throws at us, and one of the things we've highlighted is we want these to be uncut. They're unedited. We want to be able to share with you some of our experiences.
Because life, it throws stuff and it damages us.
It leaves marks.
It
absolutely
leaves
marks
and wounds. And so, And
I've found from my own life, as life damages you and me, if we don't learn to deal with it, don't learn how to process what happened, what's taking place, it just sends our life into a spiral effect, and we don't really can experience a joy and freedom to the potential that we could.
And even the verse that you stated, it seems like such a cliche verse because I've heard it all my life. And when you've heard it, yes, this is what God comes to give. He came to bring life.
Right.
And it just seems like, I know. But how the heck do we begin to live it? Can I actually experience that personally?
I'm glad you made that point, because sometimes we're of the perception that what God speaks are ideals, and sometimes those ideals, that's great, that's something to achieve, that's something to have out here, or if we don't get it here, we'll get it then. And really, it's important that our listeners understand that the life that God has called us and designed us to live, he intends for us to live it here and now. And so the big question is, or the challenge then is, how do we live that kind of life that God promises us? A life of abundance, a life of fulfillment, a life of joy. Because one of the themes that I've really heard, and I've wrestled with myself on this on many occasions, is it's when you're surrounded by impossibilities, when you're surrounded by roadblocks, you're surrounded by stops. It's hard to keep your perspective, and so often we've fallen into that thing, and one of the reasons why we both believe in this series so much is because we want you to enjoy your life. We want you to live fulfilled. We want you to experience everything that God has designed for you to experience here and now, and part of that is learning to navigate through the rough terrain that sometimes our life takes us.
And you know what? Even the last few weeks, there's something stirring inside of me that is challenging me to break out of things that have held me back.
And
like right now,
absolutely.
We are on this journey today.
Yes, we are.
Of breaking cycles, breaking through into things, and not allowing things to hold us back. And I just feel like it's time.
Yes.
So we're in this challenge with you, and we want you to join us. And we have broken cycles in our life.
Yeah,
we want to share some of the tools that we've gained.
Absolutely.
And we want to apply.
And I think that's so important, because a lot of times when people look at subjects like this, that, I mentioned in the Facebook post how if we apply these things, they will transform our life. And sometimes that's a foreign thought when we're in the midst of cloud, in the midst of struggle. And sometimes that struggle, it's important to identify, sometimes that struggle is relationships. Sometimes that struggle is addictions, things we can't overcome that control us. Sometimes that struggle is not only relationships, but how I relate to things or how I respond to things when they come at me. Because one of the things I'm learning, and I keep learning, is we can't control the events of life. The only thing we can control is how we respond to them. And that's where Holy Spirit comes in, is he comes into our life, not from the outside, but from the inside. He becomes our navigation system, in one sense, how to deal when stuff falls apart in front of us. And I think we're seeing some of this happen, to our friends in the South, where a lot of things are exploding and chaos is happening, where people are wondering, when are we going to get back to normal? And normal is defined not by what we're used to, but normal is something that fits into our life as we plow through stuff and we rise above stuff.
And sometimes when we watch the news and we see the chaos happening, sometimes that might not be around us, but sometimes that chaos is inside of us.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we're feeling what we're watching, and we're thinking, sometimes we just want to let loose and just let it out, because we're feeling that chaos inside.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
We're not having that peace, and we're getting frustrated and ticked, and we don't know how to handle life.
That's the question.
Yes.
So what do we do?
Yeah.
We're in the midst of crisis, or we're in the midst of a roadblock. We're in the midst of a mountain that seems like we can't climb. So those are the questions we're asking, because I think all of us, in some of the notes I just scribbled down here as we were sitting and preparing for this live stream, is sometimes we feel lost. Sometimes we feel confused. Sometimes we feel frustrated. Sometimes we feel like it's just no end in sight. Just domino effect. Things just continue to fall. And then you're trying to tell us that we can rise above it. Well, I need to know how.
Yeah. And sometimes we have faced loss after loss after loss, and we feel damaged from relationships or circumstances, and we just we're at the end of our rope, because we don't know if there is a way through.
And sometimes we believe that aspect, because it's happened so often. It's like, this is just normal. I'm not going to get past this. And for me, in that spiral, in that hamster wheel, where you spin and spin and spin and just hope for the best, really exert a lot of energy, but you actually go nowhere. And sometimes we feel like that in our life, because we have damaged things, because we have obstacles that all of a sudden we think we overcome, and then later on something else happens, and I call those triggers. Sometimes there's triggers in your life that set something, and when a trigger goes off, it usually ends up with an explosion, and it's a chain reaction to something. And so much of my life has been dealing with train wreck after train wreck after train wreck, that I began to identify with that train wreck and accept it as a part of my life.
And you thought you were the train wreck then.
I thought I was.
Because that's what you kept seeing.
And that's what I kept hearing too.
Yep.
You don't conform, you don't this, you don't. And so I build a mindset that of that was my identity. And if there's one thing that we can say to you starting tonight, where we're just doing the introduction, we just want to talk about some of the realities. And yes, there's hope. I want to tell you, there is hope. There is hope beyond addiction. There's hope beyond hurt and offense. There's hope beyond negative thinking, and so there's hope beyond those things. And what we want to do, and Helen just mentioned, we want to give you tools in order for you to be effective in those areas, because one thing I want to say for certain, that God is for our success.
Yes.
God never reveals things in our life to show us our failures, or we're not making it, or we can't get it, and this is just, we have to make the best of it. Mm-hmm. One of the struggles I had was the mindset, you just have to make the best of it. You can't change it, you have to make the best of it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know about you, but that leaves a person hopeless. Mm-hmm. I've heard throughout the last number of weeks, I've heard, I don't know what my purpose is. Mm-hmm. When is this ever going to end? Mm-hmm. When are things going to turn in my favor? Why does everything fall at one time? Mm-hmm. I just think I'm getting on top of it, and another pile comes on. Yeah. And so we want to learn, we want to help navigate through that stuff, because all of us have fears. Yeah. And sometimes the biggest fear that we have is we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know. Mm-hmm. And we just keep striving, and we start working, and we start manipulating, and we start operating in fear. And and I'm saying that as I know what that's like, because I still find myself in that camp. But what's changing is I know that's not my identity. Yes. I know that's not where I belong. Nope. But there's something better for me. Yeah. God has got a wide open space for me to step into. Yes. And I just have to learn these tools so I can navigate through that kind of stuff. And the biggest thing we want to give you is hope.
Yeah. Yes. Because I believe this with all my heart. It is time to break some cycles that we have walked in for many years, maybe from generation to generation.
Yes.
I believe it's possible. Yes. I believe it's going to happen.
Yes.
Not only in me and you, honey, but it's going to happen in the people that are watching this.
Absolutely.
I really believe that we're going to break some cycles. And I love what we talked about. Seeing it as a construction zone. We are going to build a home, rebuild a home.
One of the things, in reference to the construction I did, one of the things is, all my life I was looking for a quick fix. I was looking for something instantaneous. I was looking for, wake up one morning and now I'm a millionaire. Yeah. Wake up one morning and now I'm free for that. Wake up the next morning.
And I never struggle with that.
And one thing, if I'm being honest, is I struggled with what it was going to take. Because I didn't know if I could do what it takes.
Wow.
And so that was a blocking point in my life to keep me from moving on. And nothing is more discouraging, nothing is more deflating, nothing is more defeative when you don't think you can do it. It's going to be too hard. It's going to be too difficult. And it's not. These keys that we want to give you are really simple. But if you apply them, that's the key. Yeah. When I started recognizing, I had to come to a place in my life where I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. Yep. I was tired of having the same cycle go over and over and over in my life. And I know we're talking to piles of people that have come to the place in their life where they're tired of the cycle. Yeah. You know, I was told, well, just pray about it. You know, give it to God. All those things. Yeah. That didn't help. That just continued to stir that cycle because I was looking for some tangible things that I could grab onto. Yeah. Tools that I could grab onto. Yes. That I could hone some of this truth in. And I found the biggest enemy was myself. Because I thought I could not do it. And I like the fact that we talked about that what we want to do these next several weeks is we want to embark on a construction zone where we are going to dismantle some things, not for the sake of exposing. No. That's not what dismantling does. No. Dismantling, I believe, loosens up the ground that we've been standing on for so long and turns it and removes it so brand new foundation can be laid down.
Because sometimes the foundation has been the problem and we haven't understood why we're still in the cycle. Why is our basement always flooded? Why? because the foundation, there's something wrong with this foundation.
And when we don't deal with the foundation, what we build on top of it is only going to last as long as the foundation is going to last. And so we want to go back down. We want to peel back some of the things that we should never be standing on anyway.
That's right.
Lies that we've grabbed onto, our experiences that we've drawn conclusions with. Because let me say, not all of our experiences are going to be right and are true.
That's right.
But yet we find ourselves building on it. Because we see it time and time again. So then we start believing that that is me. That is who I am. If fear is a big issue in our life, we build our foundation on fear. As long as nothing shakes and moves, I'm okay. But as soon as something starts shaking and moving, then what we built crumbles. And we think it's what we built. But we have to deal with the foundation. That's why I love being in a relationship with Jesus, opposed to religion. Being in a relationship with Jesus, because what he does is he comes along and peels back the stuff we should never be standing on and creates a firm foundation that we can build something that's going to last no matter what goes in front of us, no matter what life throws at us. And one of the things that I believe that really has secured in my life has been hope. Is hope.
I concur with that. Because
you take away hope and you have nothing to build on. And so many of us, like myself, have built our life on discouragement, have built our life on our self-image. We've built ourselves based on our circumstances or what people have told us. And I'm here to tell you that cycle is ending. That cycle is done. Because we apply these 5 keys, and they're simple, and we're not giving to you today because this is introduction time only. This is introduction. We want to stir your appetite to begin to stir hope. For you to begin to believe in yourself, believe in the purposes of God. You might not even be in what we call a relationship with God, but he still wants to meet you. He still wants to come into your life and begin to build that foundation so that your life is secure. There's two illustrations in the Bible, in the book of Matthew, I believe, and it's 2 illustrations about a guy that built his house upon the sand, and another guy that built his house upon the rock. And the one on the sand looked beautiful, and it was done and quick and wonderful, and he could move in, and it was a quick fix. And sometimes we look to quick fixes to build something that needs stronger foundation. And so it was a quick fix. And then he could watch the one that was building on the right foundation. And sitting back, eating lunch or whatever they did back then, and watching this happening. But the truth came when the storms come. When the rains came. The thunder crashed. The earth started to move. The wind started to blow. That's Saskatchewan.
Oh my gosh, they must have been in Saskatchewan.
It must have been in Saskatchewan or something. Because
maybe
man alive, I'm glad my foundation.
Like
but sometimes you wonder if the house is going to pick up. Anyway, we're off topic. But what happened when the storms and the rain, the wind came? The house was built in the sand collapsed, but the one built in the rock stood firm. And I believe God's implanted in each one of us the rock that stands the test of whatever goes on in our life. Whether we call it COVID-19, 18, 20, 21, who knows?
Who cares?
It doesn't matter. It withstands the things that are thrown at us. It withstands the relationships that keep failing around us. It withstands the pressures of the voices we're hearing. I've said before, we live in an information age. And what we fill ourselves most is what's going to have the greatest influence. And the strategy behind that is you fill yourself with it enough, you begin to believe it. And as you believe it, you build on that foundation of it. And so we want to come, we want to invite you on this journey of how we walk through, because we've hit rock bottom. We've wiped out. I remember pacing the floor of the house that we're renting, knowing we were moving out because we couldn't afford to stay there. There was no work in 2008. And we couldn't make ends meet. And feeling like a failure, feeling like I couldn't provide for my family, feeling like I was failed, feeling like I wasn't winning in life, feeling everything was crashing in on me. And as long as I filled myself with that, because that's all the dominant thoughts and feelings and evidence I could see. And so I built my foundation on that. And I began to wrestle with so many things that I never needed to wrestle with. Because the foundation that we want to build ourselves on withstands things that shift and change all the time.
Awesome. That was good. Really awesome.
And we want to stop there?
No.
Okay.
I was going to try to get a word in edgewise, but I thought I'd just let you go for a little bit.
Yeah, you have to cut it, baby.
No, and I am right now.
Okay, good.
So we were going to say, and you mentioned it right in the beginning, make sure you read the disclosure statement.
Yes.
This is not a quick fix.
It's important for us to understand that. It's important for us to understand that.
This is a construction project.
Yes.
To build the life God designed for you.
Yes.
So it's not a quick fix. And I really wanted to bring in a little bit of your construction spirits, honey. Because he was in the construction business a little bit. Finished carpentry, but still you saw the aspect of construction. And you know what really hit me? I could tell a few stories actually.
Absolutely.
Or maybe I should just shut up. Sometimes that's a word of wisdom right there. Just maybe don't say anything. No.
I'm the one that usually has to shut up.
There's some funny stories.
I'm the one who gets myself in the trouble.
There's probably some funny stories. But there was a lot of different people involved in building one home.
Absolutely.
And sometimes we think we have to do it all by ourselves. We think, okay, it's not a quick fix.
Right,
now I'm in this all by myself.
Right.
But to build a home, it takes the foundation layers, it takes the framers, it takes the roofers, it takes the finished carpentry, the plumbers. There is so many resources needed to build a home.
And I think sometimes when we get into life, we just want to do it all ourselves.
Yes, we think, okay.
And so we do a real shoddy job, best we can.
Yeah, shoddy, I like that word.
Shoddy job.
I love it.
And we wonder why the pipes burst and the concrete breaks and the house shakes and the windows don't close and all those type of things. And then we think our life is messed up when really it's not.
No.
That's why it's important to be in relationship with other people too, because they all have something to contribute. Yes, I know there's some people in there you just want to say, shut your mouth, because all they have to say, they have opinion about everything. And you know what? Great, I'm glad people have opinion, but sometimes you gotta learn to shut it off.
Yeah, I hear you.
Enough.
Yeah.
But that doesn't negate that there's people in our life that God's gonna place to help us build on the foundation.
And in our journey, and we're gonna bring that in as we're building some of the resources that we've actually added in our life to build.
Like I know what it's like to feel completely empty. I know what it's like to feel like you've tried everything and nothing is working. And sometimes when we park there, it's interesting in Psalms 23, David writes in that psalm, and he writes in there, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Notice, and I never noticed before, but when I was going through one of my dark times in my life, trying to navigate, trying to make sense of stuff that was just falling apart around me. And I decided I'm going to go through the Psalms and read because David has a real perspective of walking through. He's an unedited guy. I think sometimes the church tries to edit him and make him. He had struggles. He questioned God. He had a lot of questions that if we ask, I'm sure the church, culture would look at us and go, "Whoa." But he asked those questions. And he said in Psalms 23, even though he was so confident, he said, even though I walk through the darkest valley, he says, I will fear no harm because you are with me. I want to tell you folks, God is with us in this journey. He's never going to abandon us. He's with us in this journey. He doesn't say, well, you should have known this by now. How many times I have to walk? And throw up his hands like sometimes we do. He's there with us on the journey. He's there with us as long as it takes because he's committed for us to see the freedom that he's promised. He's committed to seeing us walk in a level of life that he's intended us to live.
100%.
And when I began to understand that, it shaped my perspective. And perspective is huge in everything. And we want to allow us in the process to, as we journey to this life of overcoming whatever life throws at us, to be able to take a step back and to start seeing a bigger picture, so we don't hone in on the problem.
And it's almost like when you're in the middle of a detailed construction zone, it can be flipping over, like just overwhelming. How the heck is this home ever going to get built?
Yeah.
Because you're in the middle of it.
And every construction zone will always have hiccups.
Yeah.
Always.
Are you serious?
Because you're not dealing with ideals.
Yeah.
You're dealing with life.
Yeah.
You start digging, you hit a water line. Oops, got to do that. Or you hit electrical line. Or there's always obstacles. You pour the cement and something doesn't set right. And a good contractor understands that.
That's right.
And so I want to tell you, if I can use that analogy, God is our contractor. He's never rattled. He's never taken back.
He's designed it.
He's never... Hands are tied because he understands us so well that he has everything in place we need to learn in the times where they don't work together. And that's what encourages me. If anything, we want to, like I said, we want to give you hope. We want to give you encouragement and tell you that the cycle is going to end.
Yes. And in this, so we're going to enter a construction zone in these next few weeks. We are going to jump in and we're going to begin to build. And you are the building, I am the building.
Yes.
And we are going to rebuild some things in this home.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
And it's going to be challenging.
Yes.
Because there's some things we're going to have to do.
Yeah.
If we truly want to change our form and shape, there's things that we have to do.
Yes.
We don't have to do to get it, but there's things that we have to do.
Yeah, there's an action that
There's
is going to be required.
There's an action that's going to be required. And like we said before, this isn't going to be a quick fix. This is going to be learning to navigate. Learning to change our mindsets, learning to change our thinking, our attitude about stuff, learning to take a step back, see the bigger picture, so that we can see and make the right decisions. Because I've made far too many decisions when I was up to here with everything. Things spinning, thing going. And oftentimes I heard from good meaning people, well, because there's things in your life. If you clean that up, this will work it out.
You know what,
get
honey?
out of my lane.
And you know what, honey? Like being raised in the church, a lot of answers were just, it's a spiritual. No, sometimes it's different.
Yeah.
There is different aspects to how God designed us.
Absolutely.
And there is many different areas that God wants to heal. You know,
that is a big thing, because Bandaids are never the solution. If we truly want to change our character and our life,
and you know
it's
what?
not going to be Band-Aids.
I mentioned this because sometimes there's always this aspect where we just sit in this seat of blaming. There's just excuses. I'm just a victim. And you know what? There's never going to be healing when we're going to stay in that seat.
That's right.
Right? Because
I could blame anybody and anything from why I was.
Yes. I'm living this way because the way I grew up, because of the church, because of God, because of my spouse. There's this blame, but it only takes the power away from you. You've given your power away the moment you blame.
Yes.
You've given your power away. You cannot get healed.
Right.
You will stay stuck in the cycle.
Absolutely.
So today we want to say we are going to take responsibility to rebuild what God's designed in us to live.
Absolutely. And that's a big word, responsibility, because when we take responsibility for our actions, we can't control what happens around us. But we can control what we do about what's around us. And I think that was a big step for me when I began to take responsibility for my actions and take responsibility for what was going on inside of me. And wow, what a begin to shape. And what we want to do, we're going to bring this to a close, but what we want to do is we want to take you on this journey with us. Because it's going to be pretty exciting. And we have some really practical examples of how I've had to stop take a step back and begin to ask some very important questions in order for me to start changing my behavior, changing how I was reaction.
Yes.
And again, I wanted a quick fix, but it's not a quick fix.
No.
We're going to offer resources that are important for, if you want to expand on some of that stuff, we want to make those available to you as well.
Yeah.
But this is a series that's going to be important, that's going to build on each one else.
Yes.
And so some of them might be a little bit longer than others, and we just want you to be patient. You don't necessarily have to watch us online, live. But we're going to make it available on our YouTube channel, so that you just have to go to Estevan Church of God. That's our website. But if you go to YouTube and just type in Estevan Church of God, you're going to click onto our channel, and they'll be there for you to go through. And sometimes it's good to want to go back over it again, because there's some really key things that we're going to talk about that you're going to want to settle back in. And so we want to make that an opportunity where it's easy for you to do that, and to hit the pause, hit the play. And if you're finding that this kind of stuff is really helping you, then what happens is you're able to share with other people.
Yes.
And one of the hardest things to do, and this is just being honest, because I'm a quick fixer type person, when I haven't followed through on the introduction to see what kind of is going on. Yes. Then we get into the keys and some of the things that we're going to have to apply and work on, and challenges we're going to have to rethink things and work it through in our own life. Sometimes I've heard that before. I'm going to go to the second one. I'm going to go to the third one. But we want you to take the time. And if they're a little bit longer, hit the pause button. Take some time. Come back to it again. Because like I say, it's going to be building one from the other.
We are building something
Absolutely.
here.
And if we understand that this is going to be a process, and we understand that this is a construction project, then we can be encouraged along the way.
Yes.
Because as you start learning and all of a sudden you start seeing things, all of a sudden things that have been hooked on for long get released. And that's not the end. There's more to come.
Yes.
There's more input that we're going to do. And so what it's going to be is give you tools for you and I to grab hold of and apply to our life, so that when conflict comes, when uncertainty comes, when times of frustration or anger build, or when things fall apart, you're going to have a tool chest of things that God's already given us to take a step back and grab hold of the tools we need. And you will see how it'll change your perspective. You will see how it'll change your life. And as your life changes, others around you are going to see it, and you're going to be able to give that same system or that same tools to those around you.
And that's what it's meant for.
Because
when you've learned tools and you have them and the cycle's broken for you, it's actually going to go to the next generation.
Yes.
And it's going to shift history.
There's things that have gone in our life because of trauma or because of bad experience, because of difficulty or hurt or offense, that we can't move on. And when we want to speak into those areas, because we want those walls to come down. And we want you to step into what God has for you. And so what we want you to do for Sunday is take the time and look at Luke chapter 5. And we want you to read the chapter, because I believe that the 5 keys are all found in that chapter. We may use some other examples too, but Luke 5 is really a foundation where we want to grab hold of.
Because Jesus interacts with all different types of people.
In all different kinds of circumstances, and all different kinds of crises. And it's amazing. We can read it, we see the big picture. But when you're in the middle of it and you don't see the end before and so we don't want to walk you through that kind of stuff.
And if you don't know where to find Luke 5, you can just go right online, type in, my favorite is the Passion Translation or the Message, if you don't know where to find it, if you want to read that.
Bible Gateway is another place. Just type in BibleGateway.com.
YouVersion.
Or YouVersion. There's a lot of different apps out there and things like that for you to be able to tie into.
Can I just declare this?
Yes, why don't you do that?
No more blame, no more excuses, no more poor me, no more victim, because you are more than a conqueror.
Yes.
Through him who loves you. Something has been accomplished that puts us in a place where we can build something new. Beautiful.
Conflict,
Yeah.
conflict does not define you.
Yeah.
Your circumstances don't define you. God is going to open up the horizon as we walk through this next several weeks.
Yeah.
And you're going to see light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
You're going to see hope build, and you're going to see transformation at the end of the day.
Yeah, I believe it.
I believe it.
There's some
and that's what I want to tell you.
Break.
I believe in these 5 keys. I believe in them.
Yeah.
And they're going to change our life.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. Join the challenge. We would love for you to come on and share it with other people and make it available to you as well. So great to have you here. We want to say goodbye from 1920.
Have a great night.
Yeah, and we'll see you Sunday morning at 10:30.